I think that imposter syndrome came in. That played a massive part there, because I was like, how can I run this business if I don't know where I want to take it? All of the plans that I had for the year just kind of disappeared, and I just lost all sense of direction in terms of like where I wanted to take the business. It was really bizarre, because like now you look back and you're like, well, you just continue going forward. Like you don't need a direction, you just go forward, or you just move. It doesn't matter if you're going forward, if you're going backwards, you just move. But at the time it was so overwhelming.
And I was shocked. You said it on some call, like I would have thought you were from New Zealand, but that's how little I know about what New Zealand accents sound like. Because then I was like, oh, well, I guess now I hear the British side of it.
Yeah, the New Zealand accent is like, they say, oh, hey, bro, want an egg? You want some fish and chips?
Is it like basically the same as like Australian, or is it?
No. No, I love the accent here. Like, I think that some areas of Australia are quite like. This is recording.
Oh, this was going to be edited out. We haven't officially started
yet. Some parts of the Australian accent are like really painful. You know when they go up at the end of everything?
Oh yeah.
There's this TV show called like MasterChef, and it's like the kids MasterChef, and there's this little boy, and he's like, and then I was like, oh my god, and that was not a good accent, but it's just like that, and he's got this high squeaky little voice. He's a very good little chef, but yeah, it's quite painful to listen to. But the New Zealand accent is just really nice. It's really friendly and lovely.
Yeah, I think all we really know over here is that ship Flight of the Conchords was big, yeah. And it's like that's what New Zealand's like. So. Well, cool. So yeah, so like I said, this will be edited. This is not part of it. So yeah, so we'll just, I don't know, get started. So Charlotte, I appreciate you coming on. It's great to chat with you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so tell me real quick, you're the founder of Pow Wow Media, right?
Pow Wow Media.
Huh?
Pow Wow Media.
Pow Wow. Oh my gosh. Maybe I should edit this part out then. Or I'll just keep it. In my mind, it's just always Pow Pow.
Is it?
I don't know why. I can't. Maybe I need to learn how to read better. So tell me just real quick, kind of give me a synopsis of your business.
Okay, so Pow Wow Media is now 3.5 years old. There's 3 of us on the team, and we based in Auckland, New Zealand, and we essentially focus on content creation for social media and Facebook ads. That's what we do. Here and there, we add a little bit of email marketing, a little bit of just like marketing strategy consulting, but that's essentially what we do: content creation and Facebook ads.
Content creation, yeah, which I obviously need a lot of help with the creation side. So I know you're based in Auckland, and we were just talking off camera. You're born though in England.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in Auckland?
So I'm born in England, in the north of England, from a place called Doncaster. And then when I was 15, my parents moved to Spain. They always wanted to retire out there. And then we had like a holiday home and stuff. And then my dad got a work opportunity, and so we moved over there earlier than planned. And so I went there. My brother came too, like the whole family went, and we both went to school there. So a very, very different like educational system from the UK. Mm-hmm. And then I did my like A-levels called Bachiller, and like your baccalaureate degree, like the European one. And then I worked for a little bit, went to Paris, worked as a nanny, and then I went back to uni and studied marketing and market research. And then I did a year of Erasmus in Germany. And the boyfriend that I had at the time was like, what do you want to do when you finish uni? And I said, I don't know. What do you want to do? And he suggested going to Australia. Now, I'd met an Australian girl in Paris who was introduced to me by another friend. And I basically wrote to her and I was like, hey, you're the only Australian that I know. Do you have any contacts or any tips on how to get over there and get a job? And she said, no, because I married a Kiwi and I live in New Zealand, but I have a marketing agency, come and work for me. And I was like, okay, sweet. And so I got my visa, I got my flights. The boyfriend and I broke up. And so I ended up going to New Zealand by myself. And then I stayed, basically.
Oh, wow. So y'all broke up before he even, and it was like both your ideas, or?
It was his idea and I just stole it.
Yeah. Hey, it works out. Okay. And so you started working for this woman who's got a marketing company, and you knew her from, like, she was Australian, and you'd met her, and
we met in Paris. We were both nannies. We were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, and yeah, we had a drunk conversation one night. I think it was like Australia Day. We were in an Australian bar. We had a really drunk conversation that lasted 2 minutes. Talked about our kids and talked about Paris, and then the kids that we were looking after, and then add each other on Facebook, and that was it. There was no more conversation than just that. It was just this chance thing down to Facebook, actually, which is quite nice.
It's interesting how sometimes there are those connections you have with people that are short but just insanely impactful, I've found.
Yeah.
And real quick, because I'm very curious, like what happens next, but I love languages. You speak Spanish, I'm sure, completely fluently. Do you speak French and German as well?
I speak French pretty well. It's obviously a long time ago that I was there, but I used to speak pretty fluently. I still can. Like, if I give me a couple of wines, I'm a lot better. And German, I was obsessed with learning German, but I signed up to a class in the evening, and so it was right from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I thought, like, my Spanish brain was like, that's fine. That's like right before dinner time. It's great, but not at all in Germany, because life kind of finishes at 6. And also, to get there, I had to walk through a graveyard. And to get back, I had to walk through a graveyard. And so I kind of did it for like 2 weeks, and I was like, nah, can't do this. It's way too scary, like walking through a graveyard at night at 10 p.m.
I'm just gonna walk through this graveyard late at night. Like, this is the scariest language class ever. Okay, so like my kind of assertion, or just like, I just believe that everyone has one or multiple, typically multiple, like kind of pivotal moments of like just confronting, I mean, just a lot, confronting yourself, confronting fear, whatever. So I know it's not an easy transition to go from I'm working somewhere and I have a job to I am now the founder, owner. I am solely responsible for getting paid and paying bills and paying staff if you have them. So what was that transition like? Because I mean, it'd be easy just to skip, okay, yeah, you work for this woman, now you've got Pow Wow Media and you're doing it on your own. But I think there's some interesting stuff that's going to be in there that I'm curious to know.
Yeah. So the reason that I started my agency was just by pure accident, to be honest. So what happened was, I was working for Danny, who, by the way, has been nominated for New Zealander of the Year. She started a charity called the Period Place, and it's all about eradicating period poverty in New Zealand. And it's fascinating. So it's worth checking out. But essentially what happened was, I came over, worked for her for just under a year, and then she fell pregnant and decided that she wanted to kind of pause the agency. And so my original plan was to stay with the agency, get a work visa, because obviously I was on a working holiday visa, get a work visa and stay. And then that option was no longer there. But I still wanted to stay, but there's limitations on a working holiday visa as to how long you can actually work for. And so one day I was talking to a friend of mine who actually works with me in my office now currently. He's also British, and he said, did you know that you can start your own business on a working holiday visa? And I was like, nah, you can't. And he said, yeah, you can call up immigration and ask them, you can start up your own business. And I was like, And so I called them the following day. They said, yeah, that's true, you can do that. And then you can kind of like work to sponsor yourself. And so I was like, interesting. And so the next day I registered the business. And that's literally how it happened. So I always wanted to kind of have my own business, but further down the line, I figured it would be like I'd get some experience, then like 5-10 years from then, I'd start. I didn't ever think that I would just randomly do it, but I did, and it works. So.
And how long ago was that?
That was in like October 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So what was your mindset like at that time where you're like, okay, visa maybe running out, I could start my own business, or was there another option that you were considering, or was that the only option that you're like, sure, it
was the only option that I had to stay in New Zealand at that point.
So, but were you considering like, okay, maybe I'll go to Spain?
Yeah, I was considering going to Australia.
Okay.
But then I met a guy and I wanted to stay.
Okay. Guy brought you there, and then a guy kept you there.
Yeah.
Good. Hopefully it's good for the business, or good that you're, I guess.
It worked long term. It worked out because I'm here. I have a business that I love. I have a group of friends that I love, and I'm in a pretty good place. Like, I'm in New Zealand,
Yeah. Where I've heard nothing but good things.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So that's Pow Wow Media. I'm a little embarrassed that I was like, because I've known your business for a couple years now. And I swear in my mind, I see it. Maybe it's one of those just like changed. I'm like, because your last name, Powley. I was like, well, I don't know. I might reshoot that whole thing just so I'm not like, oh, I just totally got your business name wrong. So, well, that's awesome. So, what was it like that first? Did you have to go immediately in to like client acquisition mode to keep your business going, or were you able to take or kind of acquire some of the clients that the old with Jamie, right?
Danny.
That Danny had. How did that look like?
Yeah, so that was I used to be part of a business networking group called BNI. And do you have it in the States? I think you do it. I think it's originated in the States. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I used to go to that for my old agency. And so I already had a lot of connections there. I'd already kind of like built that trust relationship with a lot of people there. And so I knew that there was kind of like a pool that I could like reach into for clients. But actually my first client was one of our old clients, and it was a dentist, and they ran a yearly Christmas giveaway. And so it was like a brand new smile for Christmas. Really, really awesome campaign. It was run by Accent Your Dentist, which is a dentist in Ponsonby. And it's a wonderful campaign, and it kind of like creates a lot of like goodwill. It's just nice. Like, they give someone that has that doesn't smile because they're ashamed of their teeth a smile. And so that was my first campaign that I ran from Pow Wow. And then it was literally just going to BNI and kind of like going into those relationships that I created in the past and just getting referrals through that. And then I did kind of do a little bit of like white labeling for another couple of agencies just to supplement my income for that first like 4 months, I think. And then as time went on, I got more referrals from other people, and it was all referral based. And then I got a few really, really good referrals. And then by this point, I'd obviously signed up to FATC at that point, which is now DD Pro, and stalked Kat, found out that she lived in Auckland. And I was like, no way. So I messaged her on Instagram, didn't get a reply. So I messaged her again. And then we met up for a drink. And it turns out we have a bunch of mutual friends.
Oh, no way. That's
yeah. Awesome. That was really cool. And then asked her about the academy, and she was like, yeah, you should absolutely do the academy. And so I did the academy, and that was like the pivotal point for me with agency world. And it wasn't so much the funnel, it was more the pricing structure, and actually learning how to like properly price your services. Because up to that point, I was charging like $120 per week for content creation and ads,
Yeah. I think and I agree, like having that same experience. I mean, the whole mindset around charging the right amount, like it's both like on paper, like this is how you make a business work, but also like it's a borderline spiritual thing of like, wait, I'm going to charge how much money? Like you start questioning like your worth, your skills, your experience. Like, am I good enough for that? I mean, that's an experience that I've had of like just balking at like a quote that I'm about to say to a client and just like feeling that deeply. Because when you're, you know, from a job, you're not really looking at, and I'm speaking from like when I was making a salary, it's like, no, well, I just make this much per month. Like, I don't know, you know, maybe you break it down into an hourly rate and you're like, okay, if I'm making like 50, 60K, what is that? Like 25, 30 bucks an hour. And then suddenly you go into being more service-based, you know, industry, and you're charging what's the equivalent of like 75 an hour, 100, 200 an hour. And it can certainly mess you up. So it sounds like, I mean, I've definitely been there of like, oh, I'll charge you $500 a month for something that's worth like a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the what it's worth. It's not your hourly rate, it's the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a really like a pivotal moment for me. Just it's not, we're not measuring my input, we're measuring the output, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly Jesse Elder's like wealth walks, that was insane. Like that, one day I woke up and I was like, right, this is the day. And I went out and I did the walks for like 3 days, and then something like massive happened and I was just like, whoa. But then you get into the day-to-day and you kind of let it drop off. But I'm starting again this year. I'm starting again.
So give me a little more context on wealth walks. Like, I'm familiar with Jesse Elder. Almost have gone through like too much of his material where I'm like, he's got all these like tools and strategies, but give me a quick, I guess, synopsis of the wealth walk and then how you implemented that.
So the wealth walk, the objective is to kind of open up your, like, remove the blockers, remove like your resistance to receiving abundance. And so the idea is that you get up in the morning, you set an alarm, get up, turn off your phone, drink a glass of water, don't touch anything, put your clothes on and go outside for a walk. You don't mess around with like touching your phone or anything, you just go outside for a walk. Then once you're outside, you take note and you say everything that you are receiving and you kind of feel grateful for it. So I'm grateful for I'm not sure if it's I'm feeling grateful for, if you have to like say I'm receiving an abundance of, I'm not entirely sure, but essentially the idea is that you take note and mention everything that you're receiving. So like the birds singing in the trees, the beautiful blue sky, the green of the leaves, or the way that the leaves, like I appreciate the abundance of beauty in the way that the leaves are turning color because it's autumn or whatever. The sound of the grass crunching, and it's just the air, like the abundance of air that I have to breathe, the abundance of space that I have to walk around in, and you just kind of take note of everything that is so abundant to you that we don't actually appreciate. And it just, in like saying it, I don't know what it does, but it works. I don't know the brain science behind it, but it kind of opens you up to just receiving more and more. And yeah, like that week, it was like literally on the Thursday afternoon, I got a call from a lead, and it was like one of my biggest leads ever. Could be coincidence. I think it's not.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like, who's to say? And like, I know there is definitely brain science to it, because I mean, I can almost hear the haters of like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, and I'm obviously on the same wavelength as you. I mean, it's, if anything, it's freedom from distraction, focusing your mind on the here and now, because of how much energy it takes to think of shit that's going to happen in the future. And actually, Stan Way, who we both know, he posted on Instagram today as like that Mark Twain quote that's famous. Like, you know, as an old man, I've lived through a lot of like worries and burdens, most of which never actually happened. Or I'm paraphrasing, or trying to get it accurate, but that's the gist of it. You know, so if you're spending your limited like mental time and energy thinking of stuff from the future or worrying about the past, that there's less time for you to look at what's actually happening. And, you know, the practice of like, oh man, I'm grateful for that. It helps you see other things to be grateful for. And then, and like you said, receiving. And actually, and I feel like I'm going on this tangent. I'm going to end it. Another woman I spoke with just last week, she has a pole dance studio here in Richmond, Virginia, where I live. And she said one of the things they do is like, okay, like kind of pair people up in a way, like in our class of like, hey, you're going to tell her a compliment. You have to just say thank you. You can't, you know, self-deprecate. You can't say, oh, no, thank you. But whatever, you just have to receive it. So like that practice of receiving is powerful, because often if you're getting something, it's a way to really see how you can push away what is life, what is actually coming to you. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So you said you did that for a few days, got that.
Yeah, I mean, I know that that's not the recommended practice, but it was literally a few days, and then I didn't prioritize it, because I was like, right, I'm sorted now, and I just kind of got on with it. But it's definitely something that I'm gonna bring back into my day-to-day life, because it's just so powerful. And like you were saying, like the reality is that we're always worrying about things that might happen. But if you look back on your life, how often do you worry about things that happened in the past that didn't go exactly how you wanted them to? Like, we don't really. Like, things happen and it's shit for a couple of days, and then that's it. It's gone, you know? And I don't think that we need to, I think it's way more important to just focus on the now, on the things that you can control right now. And it's just, I mean, even if you don't believe in the power of it, like the outcome of it, it's just really nice to just go out on a walk and appreciate beauty.
Yeah, it's like the means is the end. Like, so if someone were to do it, I'm like, well, I did this for 2 weeks and something amazing didn't even happen to me. Well, those 2 weeks weren't wasted. You went out and enjoyed stuff. Like,
exactly.
It's like you don't look at some beautiful art in a museum and think, well, when am I going to get something? No, you just enjoy it. Or if you're watching Mandalorian and looking at Baby Yoda, like you're not expecting Yoda to give you something. You're like, I just like watching this.
I just love Baby Yoda. Yeah. One sec.
I knew it. Yes. Oh man.
He's just the best.
Yeah, he's a little cutie guy. Well, so do you do anything like as like a morning routine or mindset routine, or you just kind of, I don't know, what does that look like for you?
No, this is something that I'm changing. So at Christmas time, I did this exercise on values and what it was just to kind of like learn more about communication styles and learn more about communication. And some of the pre-work to it was to do an exercise on your values. And one of the things that came through on that exercise was that I actually value myself. And that's something that has, obviously I care about myself, but it's never clicked in that way before. And it's never I've never had that realization like, oh, well, this is a way to get out of procrastinating. This is a way to get out of like eating in a really unhealthy way. This is a way of like actually going to the gym. And just if you have that in, I've found that whenever I don't want to do something, I just think no, because I decided that I do value myself. And so I can just talk myself out of not doing the thing that I want to do. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I don't want to go to the gym, I'm like, well, no, I do want to go because I value myself and I want to be healthy. And so it's this little hack that I found for my own brain that works really well. I've lost my train of thought by going off on a tangent.
Your values exercise around Christmas?
Yeah, so my morning routine, so that's how it ties into the morning routine. basically I've now decided that I am going to prioritize my like time management of my mornings and things. So I am going to, we're actually starting a little group. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh yeah, okay, that group. Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, and we're just kind of going to kind of like have a little accountability group on just not so much morning routine specifically, but being a bit more accountable with our like, I guess, mental practices of meditation and presence and those kind of things.
I love that. Yeah, whenever the deets come out, I am 100% in, because that was like this morning I was walking around. Like my routine is I wake up, tidy up a little bit, throw on a podcast like Impact Theory, walk around for 30 minutes, and then maybe sometimes I'll journal, which is just like me maybe writing 1 or 2 sentences. That's almost like an affirmation. Maybe do a little bit of meditating, but typically if I get that walk in, I'm good. And I haven't done like the specific which I'm gonna start doing that too. Just being like, okay, I'm headphones out. I'm just gonna appreciate stuff. But it's almost like, you're always in a state of renewal. The mind as a garden is an example I love. So if you think of a garden, it could be the most beautiful garden, but if no one tends to it, it'll just get overrun by weeds and other stuff. And so you might think, oh man, I'm feeling great, and that'll last you for a little bit of time, but then inevitably something will happen, or multiple things, and you just got to keep tending that. So you never like fully make it to that. And that was always a struggle for me, where I'm like, when I start my first business, then I'm going to be happy, and be happy for the rest of my life. Man, that was wrong, because a whole new set of problems and struggles came in, but I was attaching my like sense of self to it. And it's just, anyway, a little bit of a tangent, but I'm in on any kind of like mindset routine for sure.
So what happened with that? What do you mean you attached your sense of self to it? Do you still have that first business?
No, it was like I felt super strongly about wanting, like, knowing that I needed to do something like on my own, be a business owner, a consultant, whatever it is. Because anytime someone's like, oh yeah, I'm like a freelancer, kind of do my own thing, or I own this business, or I do that, I'm like, oh, like I need to do that. I need to be in that place. And so finally got it going. And the day before I was opening up, I was like, wait, I'm actually really scared right now. And I'm not like jumping for joy. Like I was like, I should be feeling like, the night before Christmas when I was a kid, and I'm just like so excited I couldn't sleep. I was like, but I'm scared. And I started judging myself for that. And then I was like, then just questioning myself, imposter syndrome, all that. I'm like, well, fuck. Like if I spend all this time and effort getting here and thinking this is where I need to be, and it's completely different, it's like, then who am I? What am I doing here? Very like existential type of stuff. So definitely got through that. Went through it again, starting this, I guess, freelancing, contracting, like digital marketing world that we're both in. What was great was that instead of kind of grappling with a lot of those issues for like a year or two, it was more like a couple months or a couple weeks. And so I'm much more enjoying the process of building and not suffering through it. But a lot of that is because of lessons learned, and then also just getting my mind right and doing that daily.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is a bitch.
Mm-hmm. What was that ever a thing with you?
All the time. Yeah. Not all the time. At the start, definitely more so. These days, not as often, but it does creep in. And I think you've just got to like recognize it for what it is, and ignore it.
Ignore and value yourself too, right? It's like, how can you be an imposter if you truly value who you are? To kind of maybe go back to what you were saying, that exercise you did.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and just look at proof as to how you're not. You know, go back on your case studies, look at the case studies, look at the cool things that you're doing. You know, look at client testimonials and I don't know, go through your emails.
Yeah.
See, like, is anyone telling you that you're an imposter? No, it's your brain telling you that you're an imposter, just because it's a little bit scared sometimes, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Brain, but I'm okay.
It is interesting that, like, I think like anything that's going with like digital computers and stuff, it's almost like a physical representation of the brain, like how algorithms work and how coding works often is how our minds work. And, you know, going back to what you said of that, you know, hack, or we'll keep calling it a hack of, man, how do I get myself to go to the gym when I don't feel like it? Well, I value myself. Okay. Part of your brain's like, man, it's comfortable here. Don't go to the gym. I'm too tired, whatever. And then you call it your higher brain, or your more logical one, that's going to take you to your goals and be like, but I value myself more than staying home being comfortable. I value being healthy and making choices. So it's like an override. It's like the override code to get your mind in gear. Because then once you make that decision, it's easy. Your body will go. You know?
Exactly.
Man,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna do that, because the gym and I have had a tumultuous relationship, where I'll go for a few months and then not go for like 8-9 months. So
I think we all do that. Like, I've never been into the gym really, but now I want to be strong. I want to be able to do a pull-up. Like, that's my goal.
Pull-ups are tough.
You never know when you might need to pull yourself up.
I know. Do you ever watch action movies where they're like hanging by like the building and then you're like, dude, if I was in that position.
Exactly. What if we go hiking and we fall off and you need to pull yourself back up? You know, you never know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm curious, I guess maybe I could ask this, like, I could keep talking about mindset for days, which we certainly can, but I guess I'm curious, like, your mindset around business, adapting, what the last year has been like for you, and then maybe what the next, you know, we're still in January 2021, you know, what's the coming year looking like for you?
Yeah, so last year, at the beginning of the year, I had all of these plans, I had all of these goals, I had it all worked out, I had it mapped out month by month, and then obviously the thing happened, and it was like March here in New Zealand, I think, and I panicked, and I thought that I'd lose all of our clients, and that it was ruined, it was over, it was done. And it actually was fine. It wasn't like we lost one client because they were a construction business. They physically couldn't do any construction at all, and he has a massive team, and he was just like, I just need to cut this out. 100%, totally get it. And then for our other clients, we just adapted what we were doing, essentially, and just kind of like made some changes to the agreement, but it went the opposite way than what I thought it would for us in like the digital marketing space. We actually grew through lockdown.
Okay.
And which I didn't enjoy. I am a people person. Do you know anything about human design?
No.
So it's this thing, and it's that doesn't do it any justice. It's this thing. It's a theory on it kind of like incorporates a little bit of like horoscopes and stuff and time of birth and place of birth, and it gives you a profile. And basically I think there's 4 different profiles, and each one has a different style of working and style of living. And I'm a a projector, and that basically means that I need people around me. Like I get energy from other people and spin it around and make it more energy, and from spinning it around I get energy from it. And so I don't do well being all by myself. And so I hated it. I really didn't enjoy it at all. And I found it really difficult to like run the business and manage the business through the lockdown. And I know that there's still people, like half the world is still in some kind of lockdown. And it sucks. Yeah, that was my experience. It was awful. It wasn't very good. And I was a terrible boss as well.
Oh no.
Yeah, I wasn't like, I just lost all clarity and all sense of direction. And so it was just kind of like just treading water instead of like paddling and moving forward.
Yeah.
You know? So that was my like internal experience of it. But thankfully here, it didn't last that long. But that's probably like not the best way to phrase it. It was tough. I struggled through the lockdown period of it. But we did grow as a business. And then following the lockdown, when we came out of lockdown, we continued to grow. And then this year, we're looking like we're still going to grow. So
that's awesome.
So it's good. It's positive.
Yeah. But just, dealing with, I mean, Zooms are fine, but it's not the same, you know, I'm the same way. I felt like a lot of this summer, I was like, I just have no direction. What am I doing?
Yeah.
This is growing, but I couldn't get out to do anything. So do you think I'm trying to think cause and effect, like, were you growing because of the pandemic? Because a lot of people have switched online.
Yeah.
So what is that? I mean, was that like, you're like, okay, well, I'm growing, this is great, but like, this also like kind of sucks.
Yeah, I was kind of like, no. Just because I think that imposter syndrome came in, that played a massive part there, because I was like, how can I run this business if I don't know where I want to take it? Like, it was kind of like, I didn't know. All of the plans that I had for the year just kind of disappeared, and I just lost all sense of direction in terms of like where I wanted to take the business. And it was really bizarre, because like now you look back and you're like, well, you just continue going forward. Like you don't need a direction, you just go forward, or you just move. It doesn't matter if you're going forward, if you're going backwards, you just move. But at the time, it was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think, thank God we have the technology that we have.
Yeah.
And the ability
100%.
to like have these Zoom calls, turn off the camera as well during Zoom calls if you need to.
Yeah. Like, my internet's bad right now. Let me turn this off. Or I'll show up to Zoom and I'm like looking all ragged and haven't showered and my hair is all wacky. But people are understanding. So what about like, what are you at now, like compared to maybe earlier, like in lockdown? Are you feeling good? Just like, hey, I'm just going forward and that's good. Or have you kind of gotten back to like, okay, here's a direction, here's what we're doing?
Yeah, I've definitely got the direction back. But I think that that's purely because we're back in a normal life now.
Yeah.
Like, I think if we were still in lockdown, I wouldn't like have the direction that I have now. But yeah, it's just being back around people, being back in the office, having that energy around, and that kind of like, I don't know, like communal drive.
Yeah. There's something for that, because it feels like you're like connected with something and a part of something that's like striving towards a goal that just, can't replace that community feeling of being around other folks that are, you're all working towards something to some shared goals. What have you noticed with content and how businesses approach content, or what do they know about it? What don't they know? And kind of like your sweet spot of helping with that. Cause I think it's a word that's thrown around that a lot of people like will just say, but kind of willy nilly, but there's a lot more strategy and deliberation that goes around it.
Yeah. So our experience is that a lot of brands just don't know. They don't know what kind of content they need to be putting out there. And so we're moving, we were more in the e-com space, and we're staying with e-com for ads, but we are moving more towards kind of lead generation, especially around that content creation. Because I have so many just business friends who are in the lead generation space, whether it's a mortgage advisor, insurance broker, architect. There's so many different areas that the common theme is that they need to generate leads for their business, but they just don't know what content to put on social media. And so I have a simple chat with them, and I ask them, for them, silly questions, and my response is, that is so cool. It's really, really interesting, because if you think about like insurance, there are so many nuances to that industry that we have got no idea about as a normal consumer. They think that it's common knowledge for everyone, and it's the same for us as marketers, especially around Facebook. There's so many things that we think that we just now is like our second language that other people have got no idea about, and so for us as an agency, the type of content that we tried to put out is educational around creating content and around running ads. So if someone's kind of like starting to dabble with their own ads or starting to dabble with their content, we give them tips and tricks on how to do it. And that's essentially how we plan out the content for other brands. So there's like a few levels that we do it on. Well, two. We do like full done for you content creation, where we go and actually do the photography, do the filming, do the editing, and put little snippets and things together. We make reels, we do stories, or we tell them what stories that they need to film. Or we've got this new product / service that we've just brought out, and it's a content plan. So it's essentially a personalized content calendar based on the individual's brand or business. And so it's like it's a Google sheet, and it has the topics that you're going to talk about every single day, and an image prompt, and kind of like a copy brief. So it'll be like an introductory sentence that you can literally copy and paste, and then in brackets specifying exactly what you should talk about. So exactly what product you should talk about, exactly what experience of that product you should talk about, exactly what client testimony you should talk about. And it's taking the guesswork out of creating content, and turn it more into like a paint by numbers. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So that's literally what it is. Because I think people just get scared, and they think no one cares about that, or that's relevant, no one's going to be bothered about that. And we do the research, we do the strategy, we do the planning, we figure out what people actually need to hear about the product or the brand or the service, and we put it into a plan. So it's kind of like having the hand holding of an expert, but you're doing it yourself, so you're also learning how to do it.
And it's coming out of it sounds like you're doing at least one session with them, so that you're familiar. So it's paint by numbers, but it's also kind of specific to them.
Paint by numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, those things where you can like submit a picture and then they turn it into a paint by numbers for you.
Yes.
You've seen that?
And that's
like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, most people do not stay consistent with their social media, wonder why it's not working. post something that they think is like so amazing, like, and so inspired, and then it's like crickets. And I think, well, you know, and it's easy to take that personally. Like if you're putting stuff out there, like
100%.
shit, no one cares, no one's paying attention. But if the consistency is just keep doing it, just keep doing it. And that's, you know, I can see like tremendous value in that, because it's a lot of work. It used to be you could just throw a photo up and a lot of people are going to see it and pay attention to it. You just got to work a little bit harder. But I think if you're the folks that are willing to do that end up winning the game of whatever their business is, I think. Nice. Yeah. What I know you've got that into a course now, right? Is that part of the course? Is almost like them taking
it's a monthly subscription.
Okay.
And so it's not a course, but we offer like a private group that people can join if they want additional trainings. So for example, when it comes to creating reels, a lot of people are terrified of creating reels and think that it'll take them 3 days. And actually it's like 15 minutes. What it should be taking you and because they're simple to do. You don't have to do the pointy ones. You know, you can just a reel can literally be a video. A reel is the format it takes, but it's just a video at the end of the day.
Is it the same? Did it take the place of IGTV, or is IGTV and reel different?
Yeah, they're different.
Okay,
it's different. Yeah, so a reel is just like, it's like a 15-second long video, and theoretically, like a lot of people dance and move in them, so it's kind of like a replica of TikTok.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. And the fact is, Instagram is pushing those to kind of compete against TikTok. And so as soon as you post something in a real format, even if it's just a video of you talking, it's promoted way more than any other content, because that's what Instagram wants you to see.
Interesting. And that's, I mean, I got it's almost it's showing that if you're taking advantage of like the new tools, you can still get a lot of that free, you know, promotion. Absolutely. Impressions.
100%. And so that's what we incorporate into the content plans as well. We give them daily story prompts, like what you should be talking about, but not like, oh, tell us about your day. A little bit more specific than that, because I think that a lot of people, where they go wrong, because there are so many tools out there that are free, or that you can buy like 365 content topics.
Yeah.
But they are generic. So if you're at that level where you can take something generic and adapt it to you, then perfect. But if you're not at that level yet and you need a little bit more hand holding, you need something that is personalized to you and that is going to give you more direction. I was reading a thing yesterday. I don't know what I was reading. Oh, I've started a master's in neuromarketing.
What? Yeah. Neuromarketing?
Yeah.
That's okay.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article that I have to study for it, and I can't remember the topic of it, but it was basically, a part of it was saying that like the way that your brain functions, if someone says it's about creativity in meetings. It was about creating more creative, or more room for creativity in meetings. And so they say, if I say to you, right, I want you to create a game that we can play. You've got 30 seconds, go. You're going to be like, and kind of like and ah about it. And you're not going to have, it's going to be really difficult for you to come up with an idea. Whereas if I were to say to you, okay, I want you to come up with a game, and it must involve a flower and some stairs. You've got 30 seconds, go. Your brain now has parameters. It now has like a space to work in. You've got two objects. It's way easier for you to connect the dots. And I can't remember why I was telling you this story. But it's way easier for you to connect the dots. And so it's just about kind of giving you like those parameters to work around. There was a point to this.
Yeah, in terms of like content creation, but then specific to
I got so excited about neuromarketing. I was like, woo, and my brain just went over there. Yeah, so if you give people those parameters to work within, you give them way more option to be creative than if you just say, tell me about your day. Okay, well, what's relevant about my day? But if I say, tell me about a struggle that you had at work today and what the outcome was, that's way easier. Or tell me the best part of your day. That's way easier. You've got something to work around. It's not just the entire day as what, like 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's more difficult to pull something out of that.
Which makes sense. Like I'm fascinated by why that is. And it's like, I did the math once of a 15-word headline. And I was like, I'd heard Tim Ferriss, I think, says, or other linguists are like, each language, there's 1,000 of the most commonly used words. So if you're learning a language, the hack is figure out what those words are and just learn those and you'll be mostly good. So I was like, all right, 15-word headline, 1,000 options. And then did that like permutation of, 1,000 times 999 times 998. And it was an enormously large number, like ridiculously large. And so I was like, well, let me just even if like a major fraction of that, because it's like, well, those words have to be readable, has to make sense, has to be about your topic, but it's still like thousands upon thousands, if not millions of ways to write a headline about even just one specific subject. And so when you think about like that, it's like, it's really tough to find order and create order when there's near infinite combinations of things. So if you're thinking of a game, well, a game could involve anything of any kind of nature. So having that prompt, stairs, flower, and it's a game. There's 3 things. You can now twist it around however you want, but it's like, and I'm thinking also now business owners like staring at their phone or computer thinking, what the fuck do I post today on social media about my business? And one thing you touched on, I thought, as I see people do this, it's not bad. They'll look at that calendar. There's stuff of like, I don't know what it's like in the UK or in New Zealand. There's a national day for everything in America. There's National Hot Dog Day. There's National Peanut Butter and Jelly Day. I mean, in every single day of the year has one or more like something that we're celebrating. And as I'm talking, I'm going to go look up which one it is today. But people will do that and just say like, oh, did you know that today is National Peanut Butter and Jelly Day? Ha, ha, ha. Like, buy insurance from me. So it's, having something that makes sense. So I just Googled it. National Fun Day at Work Day, January 28th.
What is the 29th?
Oh yeah.
I'm in the future.
You are in the future. Wait, get out of here. Holiday is okay. I'm looking at what the crap. Okay, next. Get out of here. Add. Free Thinkers Day. This is the 29th. National Big Wig Day, National Carnation Day, National Corn Chip Day, a National Puzzle Day.
Wow.
Are just some of them. So now you've got a lot of stuff to celebrate.
What Charlotte. A great day.
Yeah. I mean, and I have that to look forward to for tomorrow for myself. So when you're talking to these business owners, like, what do you find, like, if someone's like, I can only post once a week, if you're like, here are the most important things for a business to talk about for the content they create, what would you say that would be?
The most important things for the business to talk about?
Yeah, if you only had, like, let's say one post per week, like you couldn't do daily posts. If it's like, this is.
So if they said we only have capacity to do one post a week, I would say pay us to do it for you. Because you need to be more consistent than that. if you actually want to grow it. Because I mean, the first thing is figure out what your actual objective is. Do you want to grow an audience? If you have no interest in that, then maybe content creation is not the way for you, and you should go down a purely ads route, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing is actually figuring out what you actually want to achieve. And if you do want to achieve a community around your brand, then you need to invest in that. And if you've got time to post only one time a week, then pick something else.
Yeah. Maybe you're just like, well, are you committed to building that community? Which is interesting. You said community. I mean, do you think that's like the ultimate goal of content going out? And knowing that we got content creation over here, we've got ads and paid stuff over here. Now you could take that content and put it here, but if someone is like, well, I do want to post 7 days a week, Charlotte, I do want to help, I want your help for it. Like, what's like a realistic goal or objective that I could maybe see? And I'm also just asking for myself, because like content creation is not something that I'm that good at.
Yeah. If you step back from the day-to-day stuff of digital marketing, the end goal of marketing is to create a community of loyal customers, right? That's what we want to do. We want to, obviously there's the entire process of attracting everybody to your brand, but the end goal is to create that brand loyalty, right? Because it's 10 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to retain a current customer. So the goal is to create that brand of that group of loyal fans. And so I think that's where the word community comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is something I did, Lucy Sheridan's The Good Gram course on Amanda Perry's recommendation, because you know how Amanda's grown her personal Instagram massively. I did that course, and she talked a lot about that, around the concept of community rather than it being an audience. And it's just kind of like reframing that in your mind makes your approach to content creation very, very different.
Do you find that people are wanting, they're like, well, great, you can make this community of customers for me, but what about for the folks that are like, how does this make me money? Or because I'm wondering, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking of that like difficult client, kind of an asshole who's like wants to do something but maybe doesn't fully understand. So do you ever find that you have to like give people some like paradigm shifts, or really just maybe the better way to say is like just best set their expectations? Because if someone's like, well, cool, but when does this make me money? Just for that like super number oriented type person.
Yeah. Well, I think the end goal of any business, what's the word? Venture is going to be to make money, right? But there's some things that will make you money directly and some things that will make you money indirectly. And so I don't know, it's more about the nurturing, in my opinion. It's more like kind of like the email marketing approach. It's not so direct. It's not like buy this now. It's creating that nurture of the client through the customer journey. And so for Instagram, you've kind of got, or for social media, you've got them at all different stages of their journey. And so you need to make sure that you're creating content for those different moments in that journey. So before they're even a client, when they're still in like consideration phase, create content to show why you're the best option. Once they've purchased, create content so that they know like what their post-purchase options are. Once they've become a repeat customer, create content for those people too, so that they know what their next options are, and so that they feel that they're still being looked after. So it's not so transactional. It's more about making it less transactional, basically.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're giving people opportunities to take advantage of things that they need based on where they're at. The person who's already a customer, needs different things, maybe wants different things,
Yeah.
Versus someone who's like, I don't know who this business is or what they do.
Yeah.
They're gonna need. What do you see as like? That would probably be like how your maybe paint by numbers spreadsheet is. Is that something you talk about for these clients? Of like, here's why we're doing this content is because if someone hasn't heard of you, they need to see this before they can see this post that mentions a specific product, maybe.
We don't go that into detail with it,
okay.
to be honest, because I think that's more like the strategy behind the strategy, but that's the thinking that goes into the strategies that we create, that we give to the clients. Do you know what I mean? But we don't kind of, I mean, I love whiteboards. I'm always into like, if I have like a new lead meeting, I'll grab a pen and I'll like map out a funnel. I'm like, this is what this means, because I find it fascinating. So I'm like, everyone must love this. So I am maybe a bit teachery sometimes, but for the most part, I find that people don't need that much, or aren't really interested in that much of an education around like marketing. Really, it's just like, you know, I don't know, maybe that's just New Zealand. But also people here are really nice.
That's good. Which I was going to ask, a quick side stuff. Are most of your clients in New Zealand, or do you have them kind of all over?
They're all in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of nice New Zealand clients.
It's lovely.
Man, I need to get more clients in New Zealand. I have some great clients, but I also know that, like, I mean, I've worked with some people that are like, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be doing this. Or why are we doing this and not that? And it's usually they read a blog, or one time it was, hey, our Google guy says the Facebook ad strategy, Paul, that you're doing is totally wrong. And I'm like, first of all, how dare you? Not really. It worked out because, like, I was like, I know this Google guy and he's a nice dude. And so I was like, how do I frame this? So I'm like, I don't want to trash him because he's a smart dude. And what he's saying is on paper good advice. It's that whole like, oh, well, if you're not getting 50 conversions a week, don't do a conversion campaign. It's like, no, you still do the conversion campaign. You don't optimize, because the client was like, yeah, he says we need to be like optimizing for clicks. I was like, I'm not doing that. It's not. So yeah, I have some folks kind of micromanaging, but man, New Zealand is dope. There, you know,
it's a good place. We had a client yesterday. She emailed me a bunch. She's like, I've just had a meeting with our Facebook marketing rep. And I was like, She's like, they sent me all of these links, and so they sent them like a bunch of links about the iOS update.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. And she's like, oh yeah, we're just reviewing the strategy. And I said, just take everything that they say with a pinch of salt, because they don't run ads. Like they're taught. I don't know what the approach is. I don't know if they're taught to sell more or what the goal is. But they don't run ads. So they don't have like the real life experience of it. You know, it's all theory, and theory is all good and well, but then there's the real world.
The difference between theory and practice is a lot smaller in theory than it is in practice. And, you know, when you're dealing with an algorithm and human beings on the other end of that, that's always going to be the case. There's never like that one or two thing, like, hey, it's always like here's what we suggest you do. But anyone who's actually doing it daily is like, yeah, I do that. And then sometimes I do the opposite and I still get results. It's kind of knowing, that thing those Facebook reps, you know, they're calling up our clients, and like, you know, they're fine. I talked to one just to keep a good relationship. One thing, and I mean, I'm gonna wrap soon. I'm super appreciative of your time, which again, thank you for chatting today. I'm just curious, what is it like as an adult to go to a new country and really, I mean, you knew this woman that you had a great connection with, but otherwise, like, I mean, you didn't know anybody in New Zealand, right?
We didn't have we didn't know each other. Danny and I didn't know each other. We met, it was a 2-minute drunk conversation. It was just a Facebook connection, and it was just a few years later, the Facebook message. I didn't know her. Like, I knew that she was a human, and that she was like a relatively normal human, and she was like in the nanny community, but I didn't know her. So it was scary because the closer it got to the time, I was thinking, is this woman bonkers? Like, how she doesn't know me at all, and she's given me a job. Like, that was a little bit scary. And then moving to New Zealand, especially from where I lived in Spain, which was Palomares in Almeria, like, where a house, like, the last year of uni, I lived by myself in an apartment on the beach with my dog Bonnie, and I paid for that apartment €300 a month on the beach.
Sounds amazing.
It's nothing. It's like, it's so cheap. You go out and you get a beer, and it's like, and you get a tapa with it, and it's like €1.20 or something like that. To go from that to New Zealand, where a bedroom is like $250 a week, was scary. That was I spent the first year of my time here complaining about the price of tomatoes. Yeah. But I'm over it now. Kind of. No, I'm not really. I'm still, they don't smell the same, but it was a really cool adventure. And I think that it was the fact that I went into a job was really helpful, because all of the people that were in that office became my closest friends, and they're still my closest friends these days. And then from that, just the connections that were made around that were amazing. And I think also, because I moved to Spain when I was 15, and I wasn't scared because I was in love with Antonio Banderas, and I wanted to find him and marry him. But it was very different. I think my approach to it was very, very different, and I became way more like, I was more adaptable to the kind of the culture, and I kind of like molded myself to fit in a little bit more with that culture, because it's very, very different. Whereas doing it as a grown-up, you're a bit more sure about who you are and what you want, and and so I think it's a great experience. Just go and try something completely different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that takes a lot of balls, and it's phenomenal, and it's scary. Like, most people won't have that experience, or if they move somewhere, maybe they already know some people, but like, do that where you don't really know anybody, much less to a brand new country. I mean, you had some of those chops from, you've moved from, at 15. Sounds young, but like that's like kind of well into your formative years of, growing up. So I found that fascinating, because I'm like, man, what is that like? Because I'm similar to you, what you were saying about like lockdown and not being around people. Like, well, if I was moving somewhere and I didn't know anyone, I'd be sitting on, at home on a Friday and be like, what would I do? I'd probably still like hit a bar and just like sit there and have a drink and then maybe just go home. But like, it's a major thing. So I mean, that's awesome that you did that, and you're thriving there, which is amazing to hear. So, well, cool. I think this was awesome. This was a great conversation. Learned a ton from you, and really grateful that we had a chance to catch up.
Thank you very much for the invite. It's been really cool. It's my first podcast, so thank you.
If you want, we'll get you on more podcasts, or you're like, nah, Paul, that was not I'm not going to do that again, but no, this is awesome. This is so cool. And yeah, I'm still new to this as well, getting this going. So, all right, let me stop recording.